Hello everyone and welcome into Coach Craig's Sports. This is the MLB DFS video for today, Tuesday, April 2nd. If you're joining me for the very first time, first of all, welcome in. Second of all, this is how today's video will be structured. We will be starting off by going over a recap of yesterday's picks, seeing how they ultimately turned out. After that, we'll get into the weather report for today. Going to be a few games with some pretty big weather spots today. Overall, it's a 9-game main slate. There's 3 that don't look too good, and then one other potential one that could have a little bit of rain as well. And then after that, we'll get over to my core picks. So that's going to be over on FanDuel. It's going to be 1 pitcher, 4 hitters that I do like based on their past history versus their respective matchup and based on their recent history as well. Every once in a while, you get a gut feeling in there, but for today, it's mainly going to be those 2 factors. And then after that, we'll get moved over to my cheat sheet, which is up on the Sports Affiliation website, and talk about my top GPP teams to stack for tonight's slate overall. But without further ado, we'll get started with that recap of yesterday's picks. So at the pitcher position, we went with Tanner Houck at $8,300. Got to 58 points. He was a hit. He was the top pitcher. He actually tied with Ronel Blanco yesterday, who did end up throwing a no-hitter. So the guy that didn't throw a no-hitter still tied with the guy that threw a no-hitter. So that is pretty good for us yesterday. Blanco was my favorite paydown pitcher as well. So if you play one of those 2, you probably did pretty well in terms of the pitching aspect. And then at catcher, we had Will Smith. He was $3,400. He got to 16 points, so I did give him a hit as well. At shortstop, we had Xander Bogaerts, $3,500. Only got 3 points out. We were looking for at least double digits, so he was a mess yesterday. Went 0 for 3 with just the 1 walk. And then at third base, we had Max Muncy. Some pretty good history there in the past. Had been hitting the ball really well as of late. $3,400. Only got to 3.2, so he was a mess as well. 0 for 4 yesterday with just the 1 run scored. And then last but not least, we had Juan Soto. Did really like him in the matchup versus the Arizona Diamondbacks and Ryan Nelson, $4,100. Only got 6 points, so he was a mess. 0 for 3 yesterday with just the 2 walks. So a little bit of hit or miss there yesterday. If you had some other good plays, you had a chance of cashing. Me, myself, personally, mix and match and a couple of different things, was able to double up, but nothing too crazy yesterday. Obviously, we got the pitcher position very right with the top 2 guys, one being our core pick and the other one being the favorite paydown option in the cheat sheet overall. But with that being said, we'll get moved over to RotoWire and look at that weather for today overall. So the first 3 games of the night are all rain possibilities where there is over 90% chance. So for the first one, we got the Tigers and the New York Mets. That game's out in New York, and there's a 97% chance of rain. So all 3 of these games we will be very, very much watching as the day moves along, making sure there's no rain delays, rain outs, or anything else like that. Unfortunately, around the time that this slate does start and most of that information comes out is when we do have baseball practice tonight as well. So I'll try to be on top of that as much as possible, up until that about 6 o'clock Central Time, 7 o'clock Eastern Time. So probably about right around when these games should be starting off. But we should have some type of update if there is like a major rain delay or a rain out at that point in time as well. Then the other 2 games are the Chicago games. So we got the Braves and the White Sox and the Rockies and the Cubs. So both games in Chicago, both over 90% chance of rain for today overall as well. And fortunately for them, I live up in Wisconsin, so at least they're getting the rain. We're getting a little bit of snow today, yesterday, and today. So it could be a lot worse. It definitely could be a lot worse. Then we're going to keep moving down. I think the only other game that does have any chance of rain is going to be out in Seattle, where, it's Seattle, so it always rains there almost every day, it seems like. But it's the Cleveland Guardians and the Seattle Mariners, 36% chance of rain. Should probably still go off tonight. But at the same time, if anything does change with that, we'll try to post an update as well. But that's pretty much what we do have in terms of weather. All the other games are either in a dome or essentially 0% chance of rain tonight overall. But 9-game main slate, 3 that we're very much watching, and then the 1 additional one out in Seattle as well. But with that being said, we'll get moved over to FanDuel and talk about my core picks for tonight's slate. So once again, it is 1 pitcher and 4 hitters. It's based on a combination of past history plus, that recent history. There isn't quite as much recent history for these guys, especially at the pitcher position, just because they've only pretty much had 1 start or 0 starts for a couple of guys here and there. So take everything in the early season kind of with a grain of salt. Obviously, we're making our best guesses of who will kind of go off on a night-to-night basis. Baseball is a very unique sport because I could be 10 for 12 versus a certain pitcher, and I can still go 0 for 4 against him on that night as well. So there is a lot of volatility to that, but we can also take advantage of that at the same time as well. So we're going to start off at the pitcher position with Shane Bieber. He is the most expensive pitcher on the slate at $10,200. Goes against Seattle Mariners tonight. Mariners have not done very well offensively so far to start the year. They're striking out at a pretty good clip. So definitely do like Shane Bieber once again tonight. He did have 31 points versus them in his lone start last year. Bieber, it's kind of a down year for him overall. He did spend some time this offseason kind of working on his pitch repertoire, especially working down at driveline. His fastball velocity is up, and the general shape of his pitches have been better throughout throughout spring training and his one lone start so far this year. So I really do like the upside of him. I think he's going to be a little bit more popular today, especially if we get some of those rainout games happening as well. So I will say just kind of mix and match at pitcher today just a little bit. Bieber would be my favorite, but I think there's other guys that we can go to as well. Luis Castillo on the opposite side of the game is going to look pretty good as well, coming off of a rough first start, but should be better. There's a lot of guys to kind of go after tonight, whether it's a Brian Bayo versus the Oakland matchup, which I'm not the biggest Brian Bayo fan, but he just kind of ended up being the mid-range guy for me. I like Casey Mize if that game goes off. What he did this spring looked pretty good. I think he's kind of a sleeper guy as a cheap option. But there's a lot of different guys that we can go to tonight overall. There's Zach Gallen on the mound. It's against the Yankees, though. If you believe in Garrett Crochet and against the Braves, you can do it. I'm a little bit more pessimistic on that one as a Chicago White Sox fan. But a lot of good pitchers on the high end tonight. Kind of mix and match some of those guys. Take advantage of some of those spots overall. So we're going to get down to our hitters now. We got Brendan Donovan here at $2,600. He is eligible at first base, second base, and outfield. So pretty much feel free to play him wherever you want. $2,600 is the main attraction here. Since we're paying up at the pitcher position, we need a couple cheap guys on tonight's slate overall. Brendan Donovan is one that kind of stands out because you can play him at 3 different positions. It's a matchup tonight versus San Diego Padres. Yu Darvish is on the mound. Another one of those pitchers you could maybe take advantage of, but the Cardinals have hit him reasonably well. Not as a collective team, but individuals, whether it's Brendan Donovan, Paul Goldschmidt, Nolan Arenado, and I think there's like one other one as well. But Brendan Donovan is 2 for 4 versus him in his career. There is a pretty good chance that he bats leadoff in this game once again. He's on a modest 3-game hitting streak, so I do like the upside that he does provide tonight at $2,600 in addition to that versatility overall. Then at third base, we're going right back to Max Muncy today. It seems like in baseball, sometimes this is just the way it goes. You pick a guy, doesn't do much that first day, and then you come back the second day, you don't make him a core pick, and then that's when he really goes off. So I think that could be the case for Max Muncy, so we're going to double down tonight. He is going against the San Francisco Giants. It's Logan Webb on the mound. Logan Webb is a very good pitcher. However, Max Muncy has hit him really well throughout his career, 8 for 22 with 3 home runs. That is the most home runs of any batter versus their opposing pitcher today. So, like the upside that he does present. Obviously, we did highlight him a bit yesterday. He was on a modest 6-game hitting streak. He lost that yesterday due to the 0 for 4, but he does have hits in 6 out of 7 games. 2 of those games have been multi-hit games, so I do like the upside that he could present overall. Not too crazy about this Dodgers lineup tonight versus Logan Webb. A little bit of a hit-or-miss history there versus Webb just in general, but Max Muncy is kind of the one guy that does stand out from that lineup overall. Then we're going to move down to outfield with J.J. Bleday of the Oakland Athletics. Probably not a guy a lot of you guys have maybe even heard of or maybe played in the past. So J.J. Bleday is a former top draft pick. He was a former top 100 guy at one point in time, especially with the Miami Marlins. He's only $2,600, so it looks like a decent paydown option here. He is one of the few Oakland A's that does have history versus Brian Bayo tonight. He is 1 for 2 with a home run off him in his career, and J.J. Bleday has at least 1 hit in 4 out of his 5 games so far this season. He's been hitting the middle lineup for them overall, so a little bit of upside there, although it's not the greatest lineup in the world. And 3 of those games have been multi-hit games, so I like the upside that he does present overall for $2,600 in that outfield, just kind of as a pay down option overall. Then our second outfielder is going to be Christopher Morel for the Chicago Cubs. Obviously, this is a game that we need to make sure goes off, but $3,400 for Christopher Morel. You can play him at second base, third base, and outfield. So he does offer some versatility there as well. 1 for 3 with 1 home run in his career versus Kyle Freeland, the expected starting pitcher for the Colorado Rockies, if this game does ultimately go off. So do like the upside there. He is on a 4-game hitting streak to start the season. So Christopher Morel looks like a high-end upside guy tonight. $3,400. Not a bad price tag for a guy like him overall, who does have the potential of giving you a big night pretty much on any given night. He is a guy that could go out there and hit 2 home runs versus Kyle Freeland if this game does ultimately go off. I'm not saying that's for sure going to happen, but there is always the upside of that overall. But with that being said, if you go with these 5 players that I do currently have listed here, you have $12,700 remaining, just under $3,200 per player. So it's going to be a pretty interesting slate tonight. There are some guys that do have decent history versus their respective matchups. There's a lot of pitchers that haven't faced a lot of these hitters that they are going against tonight. So kind of feel free to mix and match and get a little bit creative with your lineups tonight, especially if you're playing more than one lineup overall. But with that being said, we'll get moved over to my cheat sheet up on the Sports Affiliation website and talk about my top GPP teams to stack for tonight's slate overall. So once again, I'm going to start off by saying there's not that much history there for some of these guys. There are specific hitters that have done well for specific pitchers, but in terms of like the total team aspect, it's a little bit more hit or miss. So I'm going to start off with the Chicago Cubs. Most of them have hit Kyle Freeland really well. The only major concern here is whether or not this game ultimately ends up going off. You got Cody Bellinger, Christopher Morel, Yan Gomes you can throw in there as well, Ian Happ, and Seiya Suzuki. So there are a lot of different guys from the Chicago Cubs team that have hit Kyle Freeland pretty well in the past. Obviously, he had the major blow-up start versus the Diamondbacks to start the year, so could be some good traction there. I expect the Cubs to be pretty popular, though, overall, if this game ultimately does end up going off. Then we got the Houston Astros coming off a big performance yesterday versus Bowden Francis and the Toronto Blue Jays. It's Jose Barrios on the mound tonight, so should be a little bit better for the Blue Jays, although the Houston Astros have hit him really well in the past. You know, whether it's been Chas McCormick, whether it has been Alex Bregman, most of these guys have hit him pretty well in the past. Kyle Tucker's another one. The only really one that hasn't is like Jose Altuve. So just keep that in mind as the day goes along. Astros are a team that does have that high-end upside. But, you know, Jose Barrios is still not a major slouch at the same time. And then last but not least, I have the Atlanta Braves here. So once again, another game that could potentially be rained out. You know, like I mentioned when I was talking about some of the pitchers, you know, Garrett Crochet had an amazing first start, but that was his first MLB start. He had pitched out of the bullpen prior to, and he has dealt with some injuries in the past. Guy that typically doesn't go too deep into games, although we got 6 innings out of him in the first game of the season. You know, as a pessimistic White Sox fan, I'm just kind of on board with I think the second start's going to be a little bit rougher. If this game ultimately goes off, it's a very good Atlanta Braves lineup. And they are a team that has some bats that do hit left-handed pitching pretty well. So do like the upside that they could present overall. Obviously, it might turn out, it might not. This game might obviously get rained out too at the same time as well. But with that being said, that's what I have in terms of the recap, weather report, core picks, and top GPP stacks for today, April 2nd. As always, if you have any questions related to MLB DFS, be sure to drop them down in the comments below, and I'll get back to you as quickly as possible. And then with that being said, you know, if there's any other major changes throughout the day, especially in terms of those rainouts, if somebody in the core doesn't end up starting, I'll leave updates down in the comments for that as well. But with that being said, if you are brand new to my channel, checking out for the very first time, or have yet to subscribe, please consider doing so. Definitely would appreciate it. Helps to build the community that we're trying to build here at Coach Craig Sports, which is one that's truly for you, the viewers, helping you with your DFS. Right now, we have MLB DFS Core Pick videos Monday through Friday, and then I am also doing the UFL DFS videos once a week as well. That'll probably be coming out on Thursday or Friday this week, so definitely be on the lookout for that as well if that's something you're into. If you're not, maybe you just want to check it out, see what it's all about, ask any questions that you may have at that point in time as well in the comment section of that video. And then last but not least, if you're interested in sports betting, if you're interested in prop betting whatsoever, be sure to check out the links and promo codes down in the description below for BetUS, Prize Picks, and Parlay Play. If you are a brand new user on any one of those 3 sites, when you sign up, you make your initial deposit, you will get a first match deposit bonus. So for Prize Picks and Parlay Play, it's 100% match up to $100. And then for BetUS, it's 125% match up to $2,500. So some pretty great opportunities to be had out there. And then with that being said, if you have any other additional questions related to that whatsoever, feel free to reach out to me, whether it's down in the comments or on Twitter at Coach Craig Sport, and be more than happy to help you with that journey as well. But with that being said, that's all that I truly have for today's video. Definitely do appreciate each and every one of you tune in. Definitely means a lot to me. I hope that each and every one of you have a great rest of your day and some pretty good luck in MLB DFS tonight.